Martin Tyler, what a privilege to have you back down at Leyfield Community Stadium. Thank you for coming down today. Tuesday, 19th December, marks 70 years since your first match as a Woking fan. Do you want to maybe talk about that day 70 years ago and reminisce?
Well, fortunately I'm blessed with a decent memory, but I should remember it because it was such a significant day in my life. It was the first football match I'd ever been to where you had to pay to come in, and I didn't have any family. My parents weren't. My dad's a shopkeeper in West Byfleet, so Saturdays was a working day for him. So the reason that I was able to go was the family next door. I lived in Selton Road in Newhall, where Fulbrook School hadn't been built then, but was built shortly afterwards. And got a bus from Woodham with I think for the 11 or 12-year-old, I was 8. The boy next door was called David White. I often wonder what's happened to him. He said, "Do you want to go to football? We'll go to Woking." So I was already interested in football, though there was nothing in my family to push me in that direction. But I'd got a football and whacked it around the garden. And I thought, oh yeah. So we went on the bus straight to the ground in those days. I'm not sure it does that now, but it was straight from Woodham straight to Kingfield, and watched Woking beat Kingstonian, two clubs that I had later had an association with as a coach, a long time later. And Woking won 4-1. I was enchanted by the red and white halves. I always think that, because when Woking stopped having red and white halves for a period, I was furious and would be furious again if they changed it. Not that I have any influence on that. But to me, it was something that just the colours, the excitement, the goals, the win. And I don't think it's too much of an exaggeration to say that the football life that has developed since then started on that particular day, 70 years ago.
You said it there, you've had an incredible career of your own, and of course have followed Woking throughout all the years. Talk to me about some of those early memories. Obviously 1958, the Amateur Cup must be a real sticking point.
Well, the team, after the second game I came to, Woking lost 4-1, so I learned a lot about how to lose as well as how to win through what happened here. But the team was very good. In fact, probably the 56-57 team, which I think finished second in the league, there was no promotion or anything like that, but it would have been a championship. With John Mortimer playing, who then went to Chelsea and played over 200 games for Chelsea, and then went on to be a distinguished manager as well, and around Europe, and a fantastic career. He was playing along with his brother Charlie, and that was a wonderful attacking team. All the attacking players pretty much had international careers as well, and the 57-58 team without John was good enough to win the Amateur Cup, which was a big deal. It was a bigger deal even than the trophies, which obviously were won in the 90s. The crowd at the final was 71,000. I think the second half was live on BBC television. It was live on the radio, because I managed to get a recording from, as I developed in broadcasting, I had some friends at the BBC, so I was able, actually a long time afterwards, to get the sound recording to pretty much all the players who played in the game, which for me was hero worship, you know. And I went to every round, only one until the semi-final was away at Hendon in the snow, early in 1958, and Woking were brilliant. And in those days they had the classified football papers, and I think Woking got 10 out of 10 for the performance in the snow. It was an amazing day. The game wouldn't have been played now. And they won here, big against Averley, big against Hayes, very nervously against Finchley, 3-0 up, finished 3-2, I think memory serves me right. That was the Woking team. They were entertainers really. There wasn't too much emphasis on defending, but the attacking player was wonderful. Roy Littlejohn on the right, Reg Stratton on the left. Reg turned pro and actually scored a first division goal for Fulham against Liverpool, I think it was, and had a long career in the game. Jeff Ham was a wonderful, gifted non-league player who left after I got to know Jeff pretty well because he came here, sadly passed away a couple of years ago, but I never let him off the hook because his last game for Woking was the Amateur Cup final, and Woking didn't pay players, and it was definitely amateur in the amateur era, and quite a lot of clubs then. But another club, beginning with W, not too far away from here towards London, attracted some Woking players by perhaps doing what they weren't allowed to do. I don't want to make any accusations that might be held against me. There was a suggestion, shall we say, that there might have been a bit of financial reward. And Jeff wasn't the only player to follow that particular trail. And I played later for Corinthian Casuals, and we had a number of players. That was still when it was officially amateur. Yeah, I can't blame, but I was heartbroken. And I kept telling him, you broke my heart, Jeff. This is like when he was 75 or something. You broke my heart back in 1958, which he did. And John Hebden, who scored 2 goals in the final, who was a visitor here last year, and I got to meet him, which was a great thrill as well. I've never ever spoken to him, despite the fact, I went to all those games. So that team was special, but it disintegrated because of the reasons that I've just said. And within 2 or 3 years, Woking was struggling to get out of the bottom 3 or 4 teams, and I think finished bottom on at least one occasion. So from the ecstasy came the agony, and it was very tough being a Woking fan then. Then Charlie became manager, Charlie Mortimer became manager, and there was a bit of an upswing, and towards the end of the 60s, the side got a lot better. Ernie Tyndall came in and scored a lot of goals. All the goal scorers were my heroes, because I did play as a striker in the Isthmian League, and goal scoring was my thing. I was good in the air, not too rapid, but good in the air. So I loved the forwards, and I loved the guys who, not just because they won games, but because I sort of identified with them. And then, of course, the Jeff Chappell came along, and first of all, he was a player. And I have to tell you, I played in a game here against Woking for Corinthian Casuals. We lost 3-0, early 1970s. And Jeff has never let me forget that he was on the winning side, comprehensively on the winning side. 3-0 probably flattered Corinthian Casuals. But it was a big thing for me to play. Here was a night game. And I think Jeff scored. The book will tell you, I'm pretty sure he scored. And he was a much better player than he ever gave credit for. I read his book a few years ago, and there's no mention of his playing career at all. Which Clive Yorton did the book, I think, and Jeff's playing career deserved a mention or two. And he said to me afterwards, I said, why didn't you write about your playing days? And he went, I'm more known as a manager. And of course, he became a fantastic manager and a very kind person to me as a fan. I was lucky enough with my young children and my wife to go on the bus after the first trophy win round the town and get a bit of reflective. I think my life's been reflected glory. I haven't done too much myself. It's always been somebody else. As a commentator, it's always been the players on the pitch who've produced the watchability, if you like, and the recognition for broadcasters. So, but it started here.
Jeff will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was the player of the season in 1974, and he obviously left Woking, came back as manager. Woking, we like to take great pride in being one of the bigger non-league teams, and obviously that day in 58, 40 years before that as well, playing Bolton in the FA Cup.
Yes.
Jeff sort of reignited
I wasn't there, that. I was.
Jeff reignited that in the 80s and 90s, didn't he? Three fantastic trophy wins, and obviously Everton and West Brom too.
Yes. I think the day, was it 84 or something, 82, 84 people here for his first game. And to where he took, it's a phenomenal achievement. And he was a manager. He was, he had a wonderful eye for players. He wasn't, Colin Lippitt did most of the coaching, and others coaches helped a lot as well. And Jeff would be the first to admit that they did a lot of the hard work on the training ground, but you have to have the capability to attract players to the club. And that era, bearing in mind the West Brom win with Mr. Bazzaglo, whose daughter Olivia is doing wonderful things in television at the moment, by the way. She's going to be a real star, maybe a bigger star than, maybe not Tim on that particular day, but Tim's a one-off kind of player. And we had to drag him here to come and meet the fans on a reunion day, and he doesn't live that far away. Very modest, very shy, but what a wonderful goal scorer. And to do that from the Isthmian League and not from the National League was an amazing achievement. And I was offered the chance to commentate on the Everton game. On the day of the West Brom game, I was covering Spurs, who actually won the cup that year, if memory serves me right, played Blackpool in the third round on a terrible, terrible day. And it was for one of the fledgling satellite channels. And afterwards they said, we want to interview you. And I went, well, I'm here, I'm doing the interviews. They said, no, Woking have won at West Brom. So we want your take on that. And obviously I was able to gush and feel fantastic and watch Match of the Day and, you know, have to have the contacts with people like Jeff was terrific. So that was a great achievement. But I turned down the Everton commentary because I didn't think it was fair. I wouldn't have done it. I have commentated on Woking games. I commentated on a win here against Barnet. Mark Tucker scored the goal, I think. And then the win at Millwall, where Clive Walker was exceptional, and that was a massive victory. Millwall away, drew here, which we also did. These were live games on Sky by then, and so I had an unbeaten record for a while as a Woking commentator, and then I was asked a cup game here. Was it Southampton? Did we play Southampton here or Brighton? Brighton, yeah, which we lost, and that's my unbeaten record gone, and I don't think I've done one since. Although with the worthy Ian Nicholson, I would love to do a game before my voice absolutely packs up and my brain power packs up. And maybe we could do one for Couch TV, and that would be good fun.
Absolutely, and obviously yourself working in media, it must have been incredible to see Woking get the coverage they did the early 90s.
Yeah, and they deserved it. I mean, there were some wonderful players. And I empathise, I tell you about strikers. Darren Hay was obviously one that I looked at with great envy. He had all the qualities that you need to be a top goal scorer and a top ten, but he had the thing that I never had in my playing career. He had top players around him. As a forward, if you have a bad day, go, well, what service did I ever get? You know, Darren got good service, made the most of it. Mark Biggins was a fantastic player. One of the regrets of getting the sort of legends together in the time that Dowse and I worked here was that we never found Mark Biggins, and I'm not sure anybody knows. If he sees this, Mark, if you see this, please get in touch. I would love to chew the fat with what happened in those great years, and just a mercurial player, maverick player, really. But got you off your seat, absolutely got you off your seat. So they were. Jeff got it together, and that's so hard. And to do it 3 times in 4 years, and then to go to Caves and do it, it almost defies belief, really. And I wish him a very happy retirement. We did speak and message each other around the time where he stood down from here. So I've got a huge amount of time for him. Very grateful for the fact that he welcomed me. I was in the Woking world, but he welcomed me into his Woking world, which was a fantastic privilege for me.
And you touched on your playing career earlier, but you actually told me earlier that you played for Woking Reserves in 2005.
2004.
2004.
I played Glenn Cockerell, who was also a good friend. He said, "You've always wanted to play for Woking, haven't you?" And I went, "Yeah, I had trials actually under Charlie Mortimer, but I was at university then. And when I came back from university, Charlie wasn't the manager anymore. He said, come, when you're at university, I can't be bringing you back from university." I think it was a kind way of saying thanks for no thanks, but he never actually said, "You're not good enough," which I treasured that. But when I came down from university, and I played for Corinthian Casuals, so I had 5 or 6 years having a go at it, and then and as I played against Woking, but I kept fit, and I played a lot of charity games, and so we got to Glenn being in charge, and there was a chairman at Doncaster, I think his name was John Ryan, who came on as sub for Doncaster's first team in a promotion season, and Glenn said, I'd quite like you to do that. And I went, I'm a Woking fan. The last thing I need is to see a 58-year-old Martin Tyler coming on as sub in a game where maybe the results, even for 30 seconds, I wouldn't want it. He said, well, come play for the reserves. And I went, yeah, that would be okay. I'm fit enough, I think, even though I was 58. Anyway, so the game was played against Harrow Borough Reserves, April 2004. And it was memorable for several reasons. First of all, I had to sign a form as a Woking player, which belatedly in my athletic career was an honour in itself. I've still got the form that I signed. And Basso was in goal. Luke Oliver played. Glenn played, who was not quite as old as me, but Graham Baker played. I think Pete Johnson played, who was Gary Johnson's brother, who was here as a scout. And Joe Cole was watching. That was the most amazing thing, because somebody said afterwards, Joe Cole, we won 3-0, by the way. We won 3-0 against Harrowborough Reserves. I played for an hour, and that was always planned to come off. And I went, I don't want to come off. Do you want to? If I had to come off, obviously it was very kind of let me play in the first place. Joker, so about the November time, England were playing away somewhere, and I saw Joe in the tunnel before I was commentating the game. I said, somebody said you went to Woking back in April. Do you remember going to Woking? He went, was it Arrowborough? And I went, yeah, it was. And he said, oh, my mate played for that. I said, well, I played, Glenn Cockrell played. He went, oh, I saw there was some old blokes playing. And I said, well, I was one of those old blokes. So he definitely was there. And the kindest thing of all, Glenn was to pick me, but the other kind thing was I was then due to present the awards at the end of the season. At the end of the season, the players get together. And he gave me at the end to say thank you. Sometimes you get given a tie or something like that. There was never any money, but he came up and said, I've got something for you. And it was a Capital League winners' plaque, which Woking had won the Capital League. They'd won it before this game. This was the last game of the season. But I played, so I was entitled, and they had a spare plaque. So I've got one or two little trinkets from my commentary career. But in my little trophy cabinet, if you like, winner of the Capital League with Woking in 2004 is top of the list, really. So that was my one appearance. And we didn't wear red and white halves. That was the worst thing about it. We had red shirts and white sleeves in those days for the reserves. So that was my only disappointment.
And it was around the time of your appearance for Woking Reserves that you met Alan Dowson.
Yeah, it was probably just maybe a year or two before then. The following year, he'd been coaching this team in Cobham where my son played as a youth player. And he'd coached that team. There's not enough time for me to tell you how that happened. It was a ridiculous story, but I ended up meeting him because he happened to be there at the time. And we became great mates. But I didn't think mates enough for him to invite me to join the Wharton and Hersham coaching staff, which he did in 2005 when they just got promotion to the Isthmian Premier League. And because I put the cones out for him for the kids on a Thursday night, because I was the only dad available to do the training session at 5 o'clock on a Thursday, and he said to me, I'd like to come and join Wharton and Hersham. And I went, with the great respect to your role, Daniel, I thought, I don't really want to be a press officer at a non-league club. I've got enough media in my life without actually writing programme notes and things like that. And they said, no, come and coach. And of course I had played in this sort of level, but a long time before. But I hadn't really done much coaching except with the kids' teams. But yeah, we got on. Lloyd Wye was the other coach. We said Woking legends. So there were three of us. And we had a year or so together. And then Dow's left. And I've just, I suppose I'm the oily rag that he can drag around with him. And we've been, obviously, from Wharton, we went to K's for 6 years, then to Hampton and Richmond. For both K's and Hampton and Richmond, we had Josh Casey as a stalwart in our team. And then we brought Josh and one or two others to Woking after 4 years at Hampton, where we had a wonderful team at Hampton with Jamal Lowe, Nicky Kabamba, Brendan Kiernan, who played a lot of football league since then. But we just couldn't quite get them across the line. They're doing very well this season. They might get in the National League. This time we couldn't quite do it. We had a couple of playoffs, and Max Kretschmar was part of that as well. And then the call came, and people think Dows came to Woking because of me, but it was really strange when he said, I've got another job, it's Woking. And I went, you know my feelings and affiliations. And he said, I know, yeah, but we're going to go and do it. And I rang Phil Neville. This is a true story. I've not really told anybody this. I rang Phil Neville, who coached Manchester United, as a Manchester United fan, and said, look, I've got a bit of a dilemma here. The team that I support, I could become a coach there. And I thought he'd laugh at me and say, well, just go and what are you asking me this for? He said, no, he said think long and hard about it, not about going, but when you're there, you have to compartmentalise the fan bit with the coaching bit. He said, as a Manchester United coach, he found it quite hard when the team lost, not just as a coach, obviously as a coach you never want to lose a game, but as a supporter as well. So he gave me some very wise words, Phil. And we had the best part of 4 years here, which was really weird. I always say I came to the game when I was 8, my first game, and I got on the team sheet in my mid 1970s in the team photograph as well. So yeah, it was the end of the road, but it was a very, very pleasant stop off from the road, and I love my time here. And obviously when Douse left, I was part of that, and I think most of the staff did leave when Douse was fired.
And you lived the dream of most working fans, I'm sure, actually working for the club and coaching the team and having such success, obviously promotion at the first time of Asking and Watford in the FA Cup. Talk us through that season a little bit.
It was tremendous. I mean, we came in quite late in terms of getting players in, and obviously there'd been the relegation, so it wasn't quite a blank sheet of paper, but we had to sort out a few things that were carried over contracts-wise. Some players had gone, Josh Staunton had gone, I think, and we were trying to get Charlie Carter, who'd gone. But the players that we did manage to bring in, with a bit of help with loans as well. I mean, Armani Little was a great loan signing. And one or two nice little local stories. Paul Hodges was a lovely local story, and really nice kid who, you know, we had to drag away from his teaching responsibilities to play midweek games away from Woking, and played a big part towards the end of the season. So it was, yes, I don't know at what point we sort of thought it was going to happen. I think around the Watford time, looking at it through history as I do with my work in football, not many teams have that cup run and then get promoted in the same season. So when we got that far, I think one or two doubters saying, well, look, we've made an imprint. It was amazing. The day my two worlds collided, I was in the dugout, not on the gantry, in a live television situation. John Champion did the commentary, and I've been briefed by so many kind people in my football career from within football about my commentaries. And there was I doing the same for John, I was the man on the inside telling him what we were going to try and do. And also, Douse let me do the team talk because I knew the Watford players better than he did. And Josh Casey, if you ask him about it, a couple of months, maybe a couple of weeks later, he was laughing because I'm going, oh, well, Gomez in goal, he never plays, They've got a reserve centre-back, Jan Matt. Well, he played in the World Cup semi-final, but, he's not playing very much. And Chalobah doesn't play very much. And the Venezuelan kid who only played one game, I think, for them. And, they're tidy players, but they're not. We can do well. Obviously, I was egging the pudding a bit because I have huge respect for them as people. Who I know Tom Cleverley and Will Hughes I know very well. And Tom had a connection with Woking. Reg Stratton won the Amateur Cup, scored at Wembley in 1958. It's Tom's great uncle, so Tom knew about Woking even before the game played. So it's a lovely sort of like sidebar of the day, really. And we gave a good account of ourselves, I think. But then, how did it go on after that? We played a league game, I think, a couple of 3 days later, and won that. And we'd won the games leading up to Watford. I remember we won 4-0 at Billericay, I think.
Yeah.
And Joanna Lowe's had come into the setup then. So we normally that goes against you. Oh, we want to play against Watford, but Greg Lewis got a hat-trick at Hampton, didn't he, on
Did.
New Year's Day or something like that. And Max got injured, which was very unlucky for him, because he deserved to play. He ended up doing the commentary, I think. So the character of the players to win all those games up to Watford, when they could have easily thought, I'm going to look after myself, make sure I play on the big day on live on television. I think that showed that there was something in the dressing room that was very special. So when we won the game in the week afterwards, actually Rob Green came into the dressing room. We were trying to use everything we could to just keep the thing going, not flat, just, oh, Watford played well against Watford, gave them a good game. And then we might just drop off the cliff then. But Rob came in and had a few words with the players on that night. Obviously, we were a working fan, true working fan. And then, we won that game and we cracked on towards the playoffs, which the semi-final of which is Liverpool. I don't know how much longer I'll live, but it'll live for me until I drop. The drama of that, I always think, I was talking about the other day, Kane Ferdinand, who hadn't played much, we put him on, we were 2-0 down, and we were really, wasting the opportunity to bounce straight back. And somehow he just invigorated the whole team. And when we got to 2-2, and there was still a little time to go, added time, and I remember saying to Dowse, we've got to win it. Don't think about extra. We've got to keep going. Dowse was always like that anyway. I didn't have to tell him really. He just looked at me as if, well, I know that. And then I think Heidi might have been offside. That's the only thing I would say. But there it was done, and we'd done it. And that was we got to the final, and then the final was a different kind of game. But if you've got players of class and quality, you hope that they will have that moment. Football is about moments, isn't it? I get asked a lot about, and Sergio Aguero's goal and Man City winning that. I think that's a moment. But the best game was the best game I ever commentated on so far. It was Liverpool 4, Newcastle 3, where it started the goal after 2 minutes and finished with Collingwood closing in to win the game in added time. And that was a proper. That was not moments. That was constant. But Armani had his moment, and he sort of came and went in that season, didn't he? I mean, we knew we were lucky to have him, and then he's gone on to have a very good career in the Football League, and he's doing really well at the moment with Wimbledon. So we're always trying to find out if he'll come back, and obviously come back. Not that Dowse is involved in working now, but wherever we've been, and we're to Dartford, why can't we have him on loan? We're asking for players that have done the trick for us, and boy did he do the trick that day. And then we all ended up back in here, didn't we, with the party to end all parties, plus Blackie's pub. I remember being in there at some point. Martin Black was one of the players that I cheered in the 80s, and he played a lot of games for Woking, as he will remind you if you go into his pub and buy him a pint, as well as your own. So special for me. Matt Winter's Woking fan, he was part of it as well as the goalkeeping coach. We sort of, I think we didn't compartmentalise that night. We were pleased as members of the backroom staff, but we were really, 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 really pleased as Woking fans.
And to get Woking Football Club, as we said earlier, one of the biggest clubs in non-league, back to its rightful place really back in the National League, and to play some of the big hitters, Notts Counties, Chesterfields, must have been a real source of pride for you. Yeah,
it was. I mean, the story that I always tell is when I wasn't at the final because I was working. Gary Neville was under strict orders not to tell me what was happening here. I was at Brighton, Man City won the league. But there was a gap. We finished the commentary before the presentation. We were on again for the presentation. So, and I didn't really, it was a dramatic game. Brighton scored and City steamrolled their way to the title. And then Gary produced his phone, and on the phone it said, "Cards are going up." And I'm choked up. And I said, "We're playing Notts County." That's what I said. The first thing I said, "My God, we're playing Notts County."
Incredible, incredible. Well, Martin, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for coming down and reminiscing over incredible 70 years of supporting Woking Football Club.
Hopefully a few more years yet as well.
Of course, so many special memories. Just thanks again for your time today.